her 20th anniversary year feels like a good time to remember, all the good things about her. And
my brother and I love each other. I love him deeply. There has been a lot of pain between the two of us, especially the last 6 years.
In a shocking turn of events that nobody saw coming, Prince William has just discovered something absolutely devastating hidden in Queen Elizabeth's will. A secret clause, deliberately concealed for over 3 years, has finally been revealed. And what it says about Prince Harry's inheritance is leaving the entire royal family reeling. William is reportedly furious. The palace is in crisis mode, and what the late Queen left behind for Harry could tear the brothers apart forever, or bring them back together in the most unexpected way imaginable.
I felt, you're losing people every single time you have those headlines. We all get that there's a really big urgent message.
It's late December 2025, just over 3 years since Queen Elizabeth II passed away at Balmoral Castle. The initial shock of her death has long since settled into the rhythm of a new reign under King Charles III. Prince William, now firmly established as the Prince of Wales and Duke of Cornwall, has spent these years stepping into his role as heir to the throne with characteristic dedication and seriousness. His days are filled with royal engagements, duchy management, and the constant balancing act of being a husband to Catherine, a father to 3 young children, and the future King of the United Kingdom. On this particular evening, William finds himself in his private office, surrounded by leather-bound documents and the quiet hum of legal paperwork that seems never-ending when you're managing a billion-pound estate. The Duchy of Cornwall, which he inherited upon his father's accession to the throne, is no small responsibility. It's a vast portfolio of land and property spanning over 52,000 hectares across England and Wales, generating approximately £23.6 million in annual income. William has approached this inheritance with the same methodical care his father demonstrated during his 50 years of managing it. But tonight's meeting isn't about rental properties in Kennington or farmland in Devon. His legal team, along with the Keeper of Privy Records, has requested this, meeting to discuss what they've described as final estate, matters relating to Queen Elizabeth's will. More than 3 years have passed since her death, and certain legal formalities require periodic review and attention. William had assumed this would be routine, perhaps some minor adjustments to trust allocations or updates on property transfers that were still working their way through the system. The senior legal counsel arrives carrying a weathered portfolio, the kind that speaks of age and importance. William recognizes it as similar to ones his grandmother used for her most private papers. As the lawyer settles into the chair across from him, there's a hesitation in his manner that William immediately notices. After years of working with palace officials and legal advisors, you develop an instinct for when something is more significant than it first appears. The lawyer explains that during a comprehensive review of all documents related to the late Queen's estate, they've discovered a sealed addendum to her will. The seal bears her personal mark, and the document is dated March of 2022, approximately 6 months before her death. This wasn't part of the main will that was executed immediately after her passing. This was something separate, something hidden, with specific instructions that it should only be opened and reviewed after a period of 3 years had elapsed, and all primary estate matters had been settled. William's expression doesn't change, but internally he's processing what this means. His grandmother was meticulous about everything, particularly when it came to family matters and the institution of the monarchy. She didn't do things by accident or leave loose ends. If she sealed something away with instructions to wait 3 years, she had a very specific reason for doing so. The lawyer breaks the seal and William watches the wax crack and fall away. Inside is a document in his grandmother's own handwriting, not the formal typewritten text of our official royal documents, but her personal script. He recognizes it immediately, the same handwriting he'd seen on birthday cards and personal notes throughout his life. The date at the top confirms what the lawyer said. March 15th, 2022. His grandmother would have been 96 years old, dealing with mobility issues that would only worsen in her final months, but her mind remained sharp. As William begins to read, the room seems to grow quieter, if that's even possible. The document addresses something he never expected to find in his grandmother's will. It's about Harry. Specifically, it's about Harry's inheritance and financial future, laid out in careful detail with conditions and stipulations that demonstrate just how much thought the Queen had put into this. The timing of this discovery is particularly significant. Just 4 months ago, in September 2024, Harry turned 40 and received £8.5 million from their great-grandmother's trust fund. Money that had been set aside decades ago. That inheritance had already created tension. Sources close to William had told various news outlets that he was, in their words, pretty disgusted that Harry was cashing out and taking millions back to his home in Montecito without lifting a finger for it. William felt it was a rotten situation, rewarding someone who had, in his view, shown terrible treatment to the family. The contrast in their financial situations is stark and undeniable. William, by virtue of being born first, inherited the Duchy of Cornwall, worth over £1.3 billion. He earns more than £23 million annually from it. Yes, he voluntarily pays income tax on those earnings, following his father's example, but the wealth gap between him and his younger brother is enormous. Harry, meanwhile, has built a life in California with Meghan and their 2 children, relying on deals with Netflix and other commercial ventures, along with the inheritance from their mother Diana and their great-grandmother's trust. But this document suggests their grandmother saw this inequality and wanted to address it, not publicly, not in a way that would create immediate media attention, but quietly, strategically, in a way that would only come to light when the time was right. And apparently she decided that the right time was now, in late 2025, when William would be settled into his role, when some of the acute grief and transition period would have passed. William reads through the provisions once, then again, his mind racing through the implications. This isn't just about money. His grandmother never did anything that was just about money. This is about something much bigger: family, legacy, the future of the monarchy, and 2 brothers who have barely spoken to each other in years. He thinks about the last time he and Harry were in the same place. It was August of 2024, at their uncle Lord Robert Fellowes' funeral. They both attended, wanting to pay respects to their late mother's brother-in-law, but they didn't interact. They stood in the same church, breathed the same air, mourned the same loss, but the chasm between them was too wide to cross. Before that, it had been even longer. The brief moments at their grandfather's funeral, the tense gathering after their father's coronation, these weren't reconciliations. They were obligations fulfilled with gritted teeth and forced civility. The legal counsel sits quietly, waiting. He explained the document's authenticity, confirmed that it was properly witnessed and legally binding, that there's no question about its validity. The only question now is what Prince William intends to do about it. Does he honour his grandmother's wishes? Does he find a way around them? Does he negotiate, delay, or accept? William removes his reading glasses and sets them on the desk. The weight of the crown, which he hasn't even inherited yet, already feels heavier than usual. His grandmother, even in death, is still guiding, still planning, still trying to shape the future of her family and her institution. She's left him with a choice, or perhaps more accurately, she's left him with a test. The question is whether he'll pass it, and what passing or failing might even mean in this context. Outside his window, London continues its evening routine. Millions of people going about their lives unaware that inside these walls, a discovery has just been made that could change everything about the royal family's future. The document in William's hands is more detailed than he initially realized. As he continues reading through the pages, the full scope of what his grandmother intended becomes clear. This isn't a simple monetary gift with a few conditions attached. This is a carefully constructed framework designed to address multiple issues simultaneously, the kind of multi-layered thinking that characterized Queen Elizabeth's approach to complex problems throughout her 70-year reign. The core provision is straightforward enough on the surface. The Queen has set aside an additional sum for Prince Harry, somewhere between £15 and £20 million, separate from anything he received from the Queen Mother's Trust or from Princess Diana's estate. This money comes from her personal fortune, the private wealth she accumulated over decades that wasn't part of the Crown estate or the Duchy of Lancaster. According to financial experts who spoke to various news outlets after her death, Queen Elizabeth's personal estate was worth more than £500 million. The amount designated for Harry represents a small fraction of that total, but it's still substantial, enough to provide genuine security for his family for years to come. But the money itself isn't the important part, and William knows his grandmother well enough to understand that. She could have simply left Harry this sum outright, no strings attached, if financial support was her only concern. Instead, she's wrapped it in conditions, requirements that can't be easily dismissed or worked around. The legal language is precise, clearly drafted with the help of her most trusted advisors, people who understood both the law and the family dynamics at play. The first major condition addresses Harry's physical presence in the United Kingdom and the broader Commonwealth. According to the document, Harry must spend no fewer than 60 to 90 days per year on British soil or in Commonwealth nations. The Queen's language specifies that this time must be spent engaged in meaningful activity, not just visiting for appearances' sake. The document mentions charitable work, community engagement, initiatives that benefit local populations, the kind of work that Harry actually excelled at during his years as a working royal. His work with wounded veterans through the Invictus Games, his advocacy for mental health awareness, his conservation efforts in Africa, these were areas where he genuinely made a difference, where his presence and passion created real impact. This requirement isn't demanding that Harry return to official royal duties. The Queen was too pragmatic, too aware of how much had changed, to expect that. The Sandringham Summit in January 2020, where the family discussed Harry and Meghan's departure from royal life, had made certain things clear. There was no path back to being a working royal, not after everything that had happened. But this condition does ask Harry to maintain a connection to the places and people he once served, to not become completely disconnected from the world his grandmother spent her entire life serving. For William, reading this feels complicated. Part of him understands the logic. Harry is still fifth in line to the throne, still a prince, still part of the institution whether he lives in California or London. His children, Archie and Lilibet, are sixth and seventh in line respectively. They're part of the succession, part of the family, regardless of where they grow up. But another part of William, the part that's been hurt and angered by years of public criticism and what he views as betrayal, resists the idea of making things easier for Harry to come and go as he pleases. The second major provision addresses Harry's children directly, and this is where things become even more sensitive. The Queen has designated approximately £5 million specifically for Archie and Lilibet's education and upbringing. The document explains that this money is to be managed by a board of trustees, and here's where it gets particularly complicated for William. The trustees must be approved by both Harry and the reigning monarch, which currently means King Charles. But the document also specifies that the Prince of Wales, meaning William, should have input into these decisions. This creates a scenario where William would necessarily be involved in decisions about his nephews and niece, children he's barely met, living in a country thousands of miles away. According to reports from various royal correspondents, William has met Archie only a handful of times, and Lilibet even fewer. The christening photos, the brief encounters during the Platinum Jubilee in 2022, these represent almost the entirety of his relationship with Harry's children. Now his grandmother's will is asking him to take an active role in overseeing funds designated for their benefit. The Queen goes further with the children. The document states in her own handwriting that Archie and Lilibet should spend meaningful time in the United Kingdom as they grow older. The purpose, she writes, is maintaining their connection to their heritage and their family. She doesn't want them to become strangers to the land of their ancestors, to grow up knowing nothing of their British roots beyond what they might see in news articles or documentaries. This is clearly something that weighed on her mind during her final months, the idea that her great-grandchildren might be lost to the family entirely, raised with no real understanding of their place in British history. William thinks about his own children. George is 11 now, Charlotte is 9, Louis is 6. They're being raised to understand their roles, their responsibilities, the weight of history that comes with being born into the House of Windsor. They're learning about duty and service, about the monarchy as an institution that's bigger than any individual. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Archie is 5 and Lilibet is 3, being raised in the California sunshine with American values and perspectives. The contrast couldn't be sharper, and the question of whether those children should be brought regularly into the British royal sphere is fraught with complications. The most revealing part of the document, however, is the personal letter attached to it. This isn't legal language drafted by solicitors. This is Elizabeth Regina speaking directly to her grandson in her own words about matters of the heart. William recognizes the shift in tone immediately when he reaches this section. The formality falls away, replaced by the voice of a grandmother who knows she's running out of time and wants to make sure her thoughts are understood. She acknowledges right from the start that she understands the difficulty of the situation. She knows about the anger, the hurt, the sense of betrayal that many in the family feel. She's not dismissing those feelings or pretending they don't matter. She watched the Oprah interview in March 2021, where Harry and Meghan made allegations about racism within the family and claimed they received no support during Meghan's mental health crisis. She saw the Netflix documentary in December 2022, heard the accusations and criticisms aimed at the institution she had led for 7 decades. She read Harry's memoir Spare, or at least knew its contents, the harsh words about his father and brother, the private family moments, exposed to public consumption. The Queen writes that she understands all of this, but then she makes her central argument, the one that explains everything else in the document. She states plainly that Harry is still her grandson, that his children are still her great-grandchildren, and that she cannot leave this earth without trying one more time to ensure they won't be lost to the family completely. This isn't about who was right or wrong in the various disputes and arguments. This isn't about taking sides or assigning blame. This is about the fundamental bonds of family and whether they can be stronger than anger and disappointment. The letter to William contains a request, carefully phrased not as a command from a queen to a subject, but as a hope from a dying grandmother to someone she loves. She asks him to consider that bridges once burned can sometimes be rebuilt, but only if both sides are willing to supply the materials. Her inheritance clause, she explains, is her attempt to supply those materials. What William and Harry choose to build with them, if they choose to build anything at all, will be up to them, but she wants them to have the resources, both financial and emotional, to try. She addresses directly the inequality in their inheritances. She knows William has inherited the Duchy of Cornwall, that he'll never want money, that his children's futures are financially secure beyond anything most people can imagine. Harry doesn't have that same security. Yes, he's wealthy by any normal standard, but maintaining his family's lifestyle, their security costs, their various initiatives, all of this requires ongoing income. The Queen writes that she doesn't want Harry to feel financially vulnerable or desperate, because desperation leads to poor decisions, to taking deals and opportunities that might not be in anyone's best interest. William reads one particular line several times. His grandmother has written that losing Harry completely would damage the monarchy more than any interview or book ever could. This is her institutional thinking showing through, even in a personal letter. She's reminding William that the strength of the monarchy has always been rooted in family, in the idea that these are real people with real relationships, not just figureheads going through motions. If the family fractures completely, if brothers can't find any path to coexistence, it weakens everything they represent. The legal team has confirmed multiple times now that every word of this document is legally binding. The Queen consulted with her most trusted legal minds in drafting it, people who had served her for decades and understood both her wishes and the complexities of royal law. Every provision has been carefully constructed to withstand scrutiny, to make her intentions crystal clear. This isn't something that can be easily dismissed or reinterpreted based on convenience or preference. William sets the document down and looks at his legal counsel. The implications are staggering. This isn't just about honouring his grandmother's memory or following the letter of her will. This is about what kind of Prince of Wales he wants to be, what kind of future king, what kind of brother. His grandmother has given him a framework, but she's also given him a choice, and that choice will define him. The morning after discovering the hidden clause, William finds himself in a position he never anticipated. He's spent years building emotional walls, protecting himself and his family from what he views as Harry's betrayals. Now his grandmother, even from beyond the grave, is asking him to consider tearing some of those walls down. The question is whether he can, or even whether he should. The personal dimension of this dilemma cuts deeper than any official royal duty ever has. This is his brother, the person he grew up with, shared a childhood with, grieved their mother with. They walked behind Diana's coffin together in 1997, 2 boys, aged 15 and 12, the entire world watching their pain. They supported each other through the difficult years that followed, creating a bond that seemed unbreakable. William had been the protective older brother, Harry the cheeky younger one who could make him laugh when everything felt too serious. Those memories exist, but they feel like they belong to different people now, a different lifetime. The deterioration of their relationship didn't happen overnight. According to royal reporter Katie Nicholl, the first real falling out occurred around Christmas 2018, when Harry confronted William about not doing enough to welcome Meghan into the family. Harry felt his brother wasn't rolling out the red carpet for his new wife, and he said so directly. The argument was significant enough that their father had to step in and ask William to make more of an effort. But that was just the beginning. The departure from royal life in January 2020, announced without proper consultation with the family, blindsided William. Sources told various news outlets at the time that William felt his brother had made a major decision and issued a public statement without talking to him first, something that would have been unthinkable in earlier years. The joint statement they released, denying reports that William had bullied Harry out of the family, felt forced and awkward, a public performance of brotherly unity that no longer reflected their private reality. Then came the Oprah interview in March 2021. William and Catherine sat down with their children and watched as Harry and Meghan made serious allegations about the royal family. The claims about racism, about lack of support during Meghan's mental health struggles, about feeling trapped and desperate, all of this aired to a global audience of millions. The interview didn't just hurt William personally, it hurt Catherine, who was specifically mentioned in discussions about a disagreement over bridesmaids' dresses. It raised questions about how William's own children were being raised, about the institution he would one day lead. The Netflix documentary in December 2022 added another layer of pain. More private moments exposed, more criticisms leveled, more suggestions that the royal family was cold, uncaring, trapped in outdated traditions. Then came Harry's memoir, Spare, in January 2023, with its detailed accounts of arguments between the brothers, private conversations shared with the world, and characterizations of William that felt to William himself like fundamental misunderstandings or deliberate misrepresentations of who he is and what he cares about. Through all of this, William has maintained his composure in public. He continued his royal duties, supported his father's reign, raised his children, and stood by Catherine through her own health challenges. But the anger is real, and those close to him know it. When Harry received his £8.5 million inheritance from the Queen, Mother's Trust in September 2024, sources described William as deeply frustrated. The idea that Harry would receive this money, this reward as William saw it, after everything he'd said and done, felt fundamentally wrong. The financial inequality between the brothers is impossible to ignore, and it complicates William's response to this newly discovered clause. He inherited the Duchy of Cornwall upon his father's accession to the throne, a portfolio worth over £1.3 billion. In his first full year as Duke of Cornwall, the duchy paid him £23.6 million. He voluntarily pays income tax on this, following his father's example, but even after tax, the sum is staggering. He manages vast estates, makes decisions about land use and development, oversees a business empire that's existed for nearly 700 years. Harry has nothing comparable. His wealth comes from deals with Netflix and Spotify, though the Spotify contract ended before the full payout was realized. He's published a memoir, works as Chief Impact Officer for the mental health company BetterUp, and does speaking engagements that reportedly command fees around £1 million each. He and Meghan have a combined net worth estimated at around £60 million, which sounds enormous until you compare it to William's annual income from the duchy alone. The optics of William denying Harry this inheritance from their grandmother would be terrible. Here's the future king, earning millions annually from a medieval land portfolio, telling his younger brother he can't have the money their grandmother specifically set aside for him. The headlines write themselves, but honoring the clause means entering into an arrangement that would require ongoing contact, coordination, and shared decision-making about the children's trust fund. It means opening doors that William has worked hard to keep closed. He needs to discuss this with Catherine. Their marriage has always been a partnership, and Catherine knew Queen Elizabeth well. The late Queen had great trust in Catherine, according to royal experts who studied their relationship. Catherine received the Royal Family Order, a rare honour bestowed only on female members of the royal family who had been around for quite some time and were deemed to be of great support to the Queen. They used to have afternoon tea together at Kensington Palace, casual catch-ups that were also opportunities for the Queen to mentor her future Queen consort. Catherine's perspective on this situation is nuanced. She was hurt by some of what Harry and Meghan said, particularly the suggestions in various interviews and documentaries that she hadn't been welcoming or supportive. But she also understands family dynamics, the importance of forgiveness, and the long view that monarchs must take. She knows that George, Charlotte, and Louis are growing up without real relationships with their cousins, and she's seen how that bothers William, sometimes even if he won't say it directly. The situation with the children adds another layer of complexity that William can't ignore. George is 11, old enough to understand that he has an uncle and cousins he barely knows. Charlotte and Louis are aware of it too. They see the pictures sometimes, the rare photos of Archie and Lilibet that make their way into news coverage. These are their family members, their blood relatives, and yet they're strangers. Is that what Queen Elizabeth would have wanted? Is that what Diana would have wanted? William thinks about his mother often when dealing with Harry. Diana would have been devastated by this rift. Royal biographer Andrew Morton told reporters that there's no doubt Diana would have tried to act as a peacemaker between her sons, that if she had been around, they would have worked things out in a different way. But she's not around, and the Queen, who might have played that peacemaking role, is also gone now. The older generation that could mediate, that could force the brothers to sit down and work through their issues, no longer exists. King Charles has been attempting his own reconciliation with Harry. In July 2025, reports emerged that Harry's communications team had met with Charles's communications secretary, indicating some form of dialogue was happening. But William has been deliberately excluded from these efforts. Some royal experts suggested this exclusion was itself a warning shot, a sign that William doesn't approve of his father's attempts to bring Harry back into the fold, even in a limited capacity. The decision William faces isn't simple. He can honour the clause fully, reaching out to Harry through official channels, offering the inheritance with all its conditions, and seeing what happens. This would mean swallowing his pride, setting aside years of hurt and anger, and taking a risk that Harry might reject the offer anyway. Or accept it, but continue the same patterns of behaviour that caused the rift in the first place. He could reject the clause entirely, though his legal team has made clear this would be difficult given how carefully it was constructed. The funds would revert to the general estate, distributed according to other provisions in the will. But the public relations nightmare would be intense. He'd be seen as vindictive, petty, unwilling to honour his grandmother's dying wishes because of personal grievances. There's also the option of negotiation. Perhaps the 60 to 90-day requirement could be reduced. Perhaps the trustee arrangement could be modified to give Harry and Meghan more autonomy while still technically fulfilling the terms. The Queen's lawyers were thorough, but even the tightest legal language leaves some room for interpretation and discussion. This middle path might satisfy everyone, or it might satisfy no one. William's advisors are divided. The older generation, those who served his grandmother for years, counsel honouring her wishes fully and immediately. They speak about duty, about respecting the dead, about the importance of family unity for the institution's stability. The younger advisors, those who think more in terms of modern public relations and media strategy, urge caution. They worry about precedents, about appearing to reward bad behaviour, about the optics of William seeming controlled by his mother's will, even in death. What William realises, sitting with this decision, is that it's ultimately about what kind of man he wants to be, not just what kind of prince or future king. His grandmother has given him a tool, or perhaps a burden, or maybe both at once. She's created a situation where doing nothing isn't really an option, where every choice has consequences that extend far beyond just him and Harry. The weight of this feels enormous because it is, enormous. Whatever William decides in the coming days and weeks will shape not just his relationship with his brother, but his entire reign when it eventually comes. It will tell the world something fundamental about his values, his capacity for forgiveness, his understanding of what the monarchy should be in the modern age. While William grapples with this unexpected discovery in London, Harry remains in Montecito, California, completely unaware that his grandmother's will contains provisions specifically designed for him. His life has settled into a rhythm that would have been unimaginable during his years as a working royal. The sprawling estate he shares with Meghan and their children is a world away from the formality and protocol of palace life, both literally and figuratively. Harry's daily routine in California bears little resemblance to the structured existence he once knew. There are no private secretaries organising his schedule down to the minute, no constant awareness of photographers tracking his every public appearance. Instead, there are school runs with Archie, time in the garden with Lilibet, meetings with his various business partners and charitable organisations, all conducted with a level of autonomy he never had in the United Kingdom. Financially, Harry and Meghan have built something substantial, though not without effort and controversy. Their combined net worth is estimated at around £60 million, according to financial analysts who track celebrity wealth. The Netflix deal, reportedly worth $100 million, has been their most significant source of income. But that deal won't last forever, and there are questions about what comes next. The Spotify contract ended before they saw the full payout, leaving money on the table after just 12 episodes of Meghan's podcast. Harry has diversified his income streams in ways that leverage his royal background while technically operating outside the institution. He's Chief Impact Officer at BetterUp, an investor in Ethic, and he and Meghan command speaking fees estimated at around £1 million per appearance. The publication of Spare Inard, January 2023, sold millions of copies worldwide, generating substantial income, but it also burned bridges that were already severely damaged. Harry's current income is substantial by any reasonable measure, but maintaining his family's lifestyle requires constant work. The Montecito estate, security costs that run into millions annually, staff salaries, the children's private education, and funding for their Archewell Foundation, all of this adds up. He's not struggling, but he's also not in a position where he can simply stop working and live off existing wealth the way William can with the Duchy of Cornwall income. The relationship with his father remains strained, but not completely severed. When King Charles was diagnosed with cancer in February 2024, Harry flew to the UK immediately. But by May, Harry told reporters that his father wasn't speaking to him. The security issue remained a sticking point. Harry's ongoing legal battle to get the UK government to provide police protection for his family when they're in Britain is something his father cannot or will not help with. Meghan's relationship with the United Kingdom is even more complicated. She has made clear that she feels unsafe there. The racism and harassment she experienced during her time as a working royal were traumatic, according to her accounts. The idea of returning regularly to that environment, even for family obligations, is something she would likely resist strongly. The children add another dimension to this equation. Archie is 5 years old now. Lilibet is 3. They're being raised as Californian kids, American in accent and outlook, with limited exposure to their British heritage. They know they have a grandfather who is king, an uncle who will one day be king, cousins they barely see, but these are abstract concepts rather than lived relationships. When news of this hidden clause eventually reaches Harry, his response will be complicated. Discovering that his grandmother spent her final months thinking about him, worrying about his financial security and his children's connection to their heritage will likely touch him deeply. He loved her, maintained private communication with her even through the worst conflicts, and knew she loved him unconditionally. But the conditions attached to the inheritance will create immediate friction. Spending 60 to 90 days per year in the UK or Commonwealth countries is not a small ask. It would mean significant time away from the life he and Meghan have built in California. It would mean exposure to the British press, to the environment they specifically left because of how toxic they found it. The provision about the children will be even more sensitive. Harry and Meghan have been fiercely protective of Archie and Lilibet, keeping them largely out of the public eye. The idea of trustees approved by King Charles with input from William having oversight of funds designated for their education will feel like an intrusion, a way for the palace to maintain control across an ocean. Yet Harry might also see in his grandmother's provision something he's been searching for, evidence that he hasn't been completely cut off. The Queen's provision seems designed to ensure that even if the adult relationships remain fractured, the children will have opportunities to forge their own connections. Harry's potential responses range across a spectrum. He could accept it fully, seeing it as an opportunity to rebuild bridges. He could reject it outright, maintaining that his autonomy matters more than financial benefit. The most likely scenario involves negotiation, with his lawyers seeking modifications to the conditions. What seems certain is that Harry will be moved by the discovery itself, by the knowledge that his grandmother was thinking about him, planning for his future, trying to keep him connected to the family, even as she prepared to leave it. The broader implications extend beyond just Harry and William. This is about the next generation, about whether the monarchy can evolve to accommodate different ways of being royal, and whether love can survive years of hurt and disappointment. The Queen's final gift to her grandsons wasn't just money or conditions, it was a question, one that only they can answer.